Call our new number now. Free phone 08085 92 95 00. Mornings with Stephen Jardine on BBC Radio Scotland.
Now, it's the ultimate test of work-life balance. How do you leave your job outside the front door? This week, Charlotte Hogg resigned as Deputy Governor of the Bank of England after being criticised for failing to declare that her brother works for Barclays, a potential conflict of interest. Despite stepping down, she said, "I'm utterly committed to the separation of home and work life." Now, that separation is something lots of people aspire to, but many, such as banking expert Chris Wheeler, just don't believe is possible.
I think it's really difficult not to end up chatting about work. I certainly think about my family. Maybe they get bored with me talking about work. We share anecdotes. And I think it's a really difficult one to say, oh, it's a complete separation. And I think that's the situation the bank was having to deal with.
So how do we get the balance right between work and home? Here to discuss it, Callum Anderson, who's a partner and solicitor advocate at Levy McRae. Morning, Callum.
Good morning, Stephen.
Also with us, Kirsty Mackenzie, Managing Director of recruitment company iMutiply Resourcing. Morning, Kirsty.
Good morning, Stephen.
And Maria Jackson is Director of Clinical Practice and Relief.
Work.
Okay, let's speak to Kirsty Mackenzie, who's Managing Director of recruitment company iMultiply Resourcing on this. Kirsty, what's your experience of this? How do you make the divide between work and home?
Well, I have to say, Stephen, I find it difficult to believe that people can make a huge divide between work and home because work takes up so much of your life. And I would actually argue that there is a real benefit to work, talking about work at home. Now, I've got maybe a bit of an extreme situation in the sense that I've got a very close family. My parents run businesses, my brother runs a business, I run a business, and we all also happen to be next door neighbours to each other. So I appreciate that's quite extreme in terms of sort of close proximity. But what that means is we cannot have a family meal without discussing work. And I agree we don't discuss sometimes specifics because there can be sort of things that are confidential, but we share ideas, we discuss challenges, we can vent to each other, we can ask each other for advice, and in fact, we compete with each other as well and encourage each other. And I actually think that's really healthy. I enjoy being able to speak to my family about those things.
So you've almost gone completely the other way from Callum in that work dominates things at home. Isn't there a downside to that as well when you can't separate the two? You can't get time away from work?
Well, potentially, but I guess when you run your own business, which I do and my family does, it's difficult. I think it's probably difficult to separate that anyway because you're so passionate about it that it is a huge chunk of who you are in your life. In saying that, though, our family meals, we would do have a game at the end of the meal or, a board game, or we do things to switch off. But I think it'd be fair to say we enjoy talking about it. And if I didn't talk about it with them, especially when you run a business, who can you sort of vent to or share ideas with if it's not your team? You do need someone outside that's got a different perspective.
You said you compete with your family around the table on work things. What do you mean by that?
Well, so my brother's a very similar age to me and on the business. So we talk about online figures, we talk about business performance, productivity per head. So this is the types of discussions that we enjoy having, and then we egg each other on, and it spurs us on to go back into the office the next again day and work even harder. Callum,
listening to that, Callum Anderson, partner at Levy McRae, when you listen to that really open approach to talking about work round the dinner table, with family members. Right, Kirsty Mackenzie, come back in on this, Managing Director of recruitment company iMultiply. What are the rules in your family? So the dinner table is obviously a big discussion place for all of this.
That's a big discussion. I wouldn't say we have set rules. I mean, what I quite like, what's quite positive is, if I speak to my brother, who's one of my best friends, we can phone each other at any time, talk business, but what's really positive, it can be, well, what's gone well for you today, or what's gone well this week, or what incentive for the team worked well. And actually I go, oh, that's a good idea. And actually I'm going to see how I can put that into my business. So I have to say there's no real boundaries, but for us as a family, it's not been an issue. But I suspect it's not been an issue because we're all generally interested in each other's businesses because we're that way minded. I suspect it could be an issue if we had someone else join the family that I guess just didn't care about work or business.
Yeah,
I can see
that's the challenge when you get a new daughter-in-law or son-in-law joining the family and maybe works in a different sphere. They maybe just don't want to hear this conversation.
I can understand that, but it's a bit like, my partner doesn't run a business. He does come out from a business background, from his family point of view, but I find it very supportive that he does seem at least very interested in what I do, and he's happy for me to just talk out loud sometimes.
Just as well for him, eh?
Really healthy. Maybe it's just switching off, putting on a good game face. I'm not sure, but I do think it's healthy to be able to, come home from work and just sort of chat about things. It doesn't have to be just when you've had a bad day, though. I think what I'm saying is it can be share positive things and ideas, and that gets us thinking about what we could then do better in our own work lives.
Okay, 80295 to text us. How do you do this at home? When do you switch off and when do you share? Or give us a call, 08085 92 95 00. Mary's done that from...